Well, I've been living here for a few years now, and I still haven't managed to get further than conversations at the pub when it comes to Japanese. You might ask me why. Um, could say I'm lazy, but there's a lot more to it than that. I'm gonna talk about studying the language here a little bit. Um, there's two different choices when it comes to this. I have a ton of books on the topic, and it is pretty daunting, but you just got to like break it down a little bit, and it's not so bad. There's a ton of channels out there on how to study a language, how to pick up a language, how to study Japanese. So I'm not going to get really into that. That's not what I'm here to talk about. Um, just want to talk about you know why my Japanese was better in Canada than it is in Japan. I have, like I said, a ton of books on Japanese. I have them; they're everywhere. Um, but you just gotta use it. Like when I lived in Canada, I took Japanese in university. I actually went back to university to study Japanese, and I was using it often in university. I had classmates I could use it with. I had a great professor, teacher, sensei, my sensei. She was awesome. Really, really, really good. And we used a book called Genki. I have a copy of the first level as well, but I don't know where it is. It's missing in action somewhere in my house. Um, it's a really good jumping off point for people that want to study the language a little bit. Um, but you really got to think about like why you want to study the language. Um, you know, like I said, I have a ton of books here on how to study the language. I have notebooks. I have notes I've written down. Um, I went to like municipal lessons, like city lessons that they have. They're run by volunteers. They're really, really, really cheap. But I was stuck in a weird spot where um, I wasn't a beginner anymore, but I wasn't that intermediate level. I was when I lived in Canada. I was at that intermediate level, like middle, not intermediate, but yeah, you know what I mean. Um, so when I went there, it was an issue of like studying studying the language, like going back to the very beginning was boring. It was so boring because I knew all of this stuff. I felt like kind of like I was wasting my time. Um, the teachers are really nice. They're usually just like retired people that are putting this on. It's about 100 yen a lesson. Sometimes it's group lessons, sometimes it's one to one, depending on like who shows up and who doesn't show up. I have two teachers there actually. I used to go twice a week before all this global situation happened. And on the one hand, I had a teacher. She's very nice. Um, Another teacher. He's nice, but very very old school, very traditional. Like drill, 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 drill until you get it. And that's not how I learn. Very Not very well. Drilling is great, but if it's not how you learn, then it's not going to work for you. So do try, if you're interested in studying the language, do try a few different methods. There's, like I said, there's a lot of stuff on the internet. I'm not going to get into it very much. Um, yeah, I just um, would just go to the lesson, and I mean, I'm like writing down just stuff that was interesting to me, stuff that I would use, stuff that applies to me. But there was a lot of stuff that didn't. Well, everything applies at some point. You're gonna need it at some point, but I was at the time looking for stuff that I could use right away. So anyway, moving on. Genki, yeah, great series. There's actually apps for Genki on at least on the Google Play Store. I'm it says right here apps on the App Store for iOS. So vocab and kanji, and they help you memorize vocabulary. They help you with kanji. They're pretty good. I think they cost money. I can't remember. Got them a long time ago. That brings me to Mina no Nihongo. Everyone's Japanese. This book is trashed. I kept it in my work bag a lot, and it got wet, so it's kind of nasty. But the catch is, it's in Japan. It's all in Japanese. Everything. Lesson 1, all in Japanese. So if you're new, you're gonna have to learn to read hiragana, katakana. That's their like phonetic way of spelling things out. Kanji, the borrowed characters from China, comes a little bit later. Again, lots of stuff online, lots of resources for that. Living here, you're going to run into something called JLPT, Japanese Language Proficiency Test. And it's good to have if you live here. I know people that are, I would say, fluent in Japanese, and they've never once taken any of these tests. It's good to have if you're planning to work here, you're planning to live here, you're planning to spend some real time here. Do it. I know a few people. It starts N5 is the beginning. It goes all the way up to N1, of course. So N1 being theoretically you're fluent in the language, you've mastered the language, but there's so much to learn. English and Japanese, when it comes to like vocabulary size, they're about the same. There's quite a lot. There's grammar. Popular TV thing right now is like historical dramas, which is difficult to understand sometimes. But yeah, anyway, so you have your various JLPT books. I have more around the house somewhere. I've got like so many textbooks, but it's daunting. It's overwhelming. And my time management wasn't great when I first, started up again. So if you want to study a language, like just like anything else, any sort of like self-improvement, it could be like working out, it could be studying a language, it could be, you're learning to draw, you're playing a musical instrument. Make time for it. You can't say you don't have time. Like 5 minutes that, I'm sitting there on Reddit, I could be using to get better at Japanese. So this video has gone on longer than I hoped. There's a lot of different ways to do it, and I'm going to get back into it. With that being said, I'm out of here. I'm starving to death, and I need to go to the grocery store before it gets busy, because I don't want to be dealing with that. So, take care. See you next time.